We're looking at a very much simplified resource allocation problem that we consider in the text. I'm using a drawing package known as Illustrator. Other drawing packages operate in a very similar manner, and you should be able to replicate what I'm about to do with your favourite package. What I've done is I have got an outline map, a very much simplified map of the country Iceland. We are imagining that we're setting up a rescue service and that we're going to have two bases for this service, one of them in the west here in Reykjavik and the other one in the much smaller town of Vík down here on the southern coast. What I need to do therefore is next to actually mark these towns in much more clearly. I've chosen to do this using layers. If your package does this, it can be a very good idea. I'm currently not looking at the layer where I have put the town, so I'm going to make that layer visible now. I have locked it, and I have also locked the basic map so that I can't fiddle with it. All subsequent drawings are going to get made on the next layer up, which is lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of move the map a bit if I can, so that we get a much bigger picture of the area of interest. The first thing I'm going to do is to use the line tool to draw a line joining the two bases, to Reykjavik and then the other place, Vík, and I want this line to be black, which it currently is. I've got a colour palette here which I can use to alter the appearance of lines. So I'm leaving it black. I'm going to leave it selected because the next thing I want to do is make a copy of this line in exactly the same place as the original line. I've got keyboard shortcuts that will let me do this. So I will just make a copy, and you don't see any alteration at all in the picture. But there are now actually two lines joining these two places. And what I'm going to do now is use the rotation tool, which is this rotation, the arrow here, to rotate this second line to be at right angles. You might just be able to see that there is a light blue dot right in the middle showing that the center of rotation will be right in the middle of this line. This is exactly what we want. It's the default position for producing a perpendicular bisector. I can press the Shift key and select the arrow, and the Shift key will constrain the rotation angles to be right angles. So I select the rotation tool. I've got to select my line first. I select the rotation tool, press the Shift key, and you might just see that I am now rotating it to exactly right angles, and I have now drawn a perpendicular bisector to the original line. This is exactly what we want to solve our problem. To help me, I'm going to make it red using my color palettes. I'm going to choose the arrow, and we're going to zoom out next and see the whole island again. And what I need to do is simply use my main arrow tool to extend this line. I don't need to worry too much about keeping it exactly in its original position, because when I get close to it, did you see that? It just snapped into position. And there I have an extended perpendicular bisector. I'll just reposition everything a little bit. And what we've done is we have divided the country into two halves. A half up here, which is closest to Reykjavik, and a half down here, which is closest to Vík. As we say in the text, of course, it's not necessarily half the island, but what we have achieved is every place here is closer to Vík than it is to Reykjavik, and every place in this half is closer to Reykjavik than it is to Vík. So if we're looking at setting up a rescue system, people will be reached more quickly from Reykjavik in this area and more quickly from Vík in this area. And this is what we were trying to achieve.